someone suggested to me that it might make a good musical. That intuitively seemed true to me, although I had never written a musical before, so I could have just as easily been terribly wrong. We had to make something new. We had to make theater. Theater has different operating principles. So we had to make something that would feel to people who had read the book like they had an experience of that book, and people who hadn't read the book, they wouldn't feel like, oh, I might understand this if I had read the book. That's what we were interested in, figuring out how to take that book, operating in the way a graphic novel operates, take whatever makes that book compelling, and then reinvent it in this other form.
One example that comes to mind is in the beginning, early in the book, like in the first couple of pages, you encounter Bruce yelling at the children in a really aggressive, stern manner, and in the book it functions in one sort of way. We sort of had that as the introduction to Bruce early on in the show, and discovered that it just in a theatrical context it made Bruce a kind of character that you were going to spend ages sort of undoing if that was your first impression of him. And so several revisions later, it felt like the decision sort of was, we need to understand positive aspects of Bruce first before we introduce the negative aspects, because in a theatrical context, audiences engage with characters differently maybe than they do in a narrative context, in a book.
I found the way Allison drew Helen it was very interesting to me, because she's always very held, which to me is a clue about, how she functioned in this family, which is very much trying to hold things together and make them function. And I think Lisa and Janine did a really beautiful thing for me as an actor, which, they really found the little moments that are in the book and made this arc, and then also gave Helen an opportunity to really tell her story by the end of the show in this really beautiful and powerful way. So for me as an actor, that was a gift from them to me.
The sort of downtrodden wife is in a certain way a stock character. So the question was, what is specific about the character of Helen Bechtel? She can't only be in this marriage because she's a woman of this time period and she feels a societal obligation to this marriage. We had to say, what is in this marriage and what is in this relationship with this man that actually matters to her?
I mean, I think that Helen and Bruce truly loved each other. I think that, and I've heard Allison say that they really shared many things. They had a love of art, and I think she shared his love of beauty. I think they had some really good times in that house in Beach Creek. I think she got a lot out of the marriage, and she made it work until she couldn't make it work.
I go through a journey every time we do the show of being someone that is uncomfortable with who they are and really grappling and fighting with their true identity, and by the end of the show, I end in a place where I'm really comfortable with who I am, or not necessarily comfortable, but I'm proud, and there's a confidence and there's a clarity sort of in who she is, and that's a gift. Not a lot of characters, I mean, like, I don't know why, but in a lot of shows and things that I do, I die, or I'm in prison, or like, this is a gift to be able to be a person who's gone through that journey and then come out the other side in a positive way. At least with herself.
The portrayal of butchness in the show was, from the very beginning, something that I was very concerned about how we would succeed at doing it, because it's an elusive thing. It's not about maleness. It's something else. I mean, it's a very striking set of like 3 or 4 panels in the book. And Janine said, we have to write a song about this moment. And I said, I don't think that's a good idea, because what I feared was that I didn't know how to do it without setting up particularly at that point, setting up the audience to laugh at that woman, at that butch woman. I was sort of looking through the eyes of this little girl and thinking, what is she seeing? And then there were all kinds of words, descriptive words, that I knew would be, you know, so lace up boots, came after all, you know, there were all kinds of other descriptors for the boots that I knew would tap people into pre-existing stereotypes of that woman as a joke.
Lisa's written it so beautifully that there's so much underneath what we're all saying constantly. There's so much subtext. It's so deep that it's really rich to play as an actor because there's so much going on.
One of the things that I cherish so much about our particular script, not just Allison's book and not just the story, but is the way that Lisa and Janine have found ways to kind of write in the silences things that if you're paying attention and if you have a good guide like Sam Gold was, to have the faith in your authors to know that all of that's going to be taken care of. I can just do my job of really being as monstrous as he might be in a moment, knowing that that's not going to be what the audience is left with ultimately.
Janine has said this many times, but because theater has such a long lead time, such a long development time, it's very rare for theater to be in sync with a sort of dawning cultural moment. And one of the great thrills of Fun Home for all of us, I think, is to, you know, have a musical, Broadway musical, that has completely been at the cusp of an evolving opening moment. That is a thrilling experience to have in the theater, and I don't think if Fun Home had come to the stage even 3 or 4 years earlier that it would have happened in that way.
Oh my God, this is about my family. I mean, my dad's not gay, but it's about my family. Or my daughter's not a lesbian, but this is, I understand, like, I hear that all the time, that people say, this is my life, even though if they told you their life story, it wouldn't align with Allison's. And that is an amazing thing to hear, you know, and how it reaches people that way.
Every single person who comes to the stage door and says that this show affected me personally is fuel for the show to keep going. It's a wonderful thing to hear. Oh, I am a young woman and I'm going through this right now, and what you've done has given me strength to continue. That just makes me want to do the show over and over and over and over again, knowing that it's affecting people in that positive way. It's like rocket fuel.